Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to GCTV. And whilst it might be a little bit late to say welcome to 2022, we can say welcome to the new Global Champions League season that is now just weeks away. We look forward to taking you through this special edition of The Insider, where we talk about the new transfers, the new teams, the new riders, and the new names. I have some very exciting numbers in front of you, just to give you an idea as to what to expect. We have 21 riders that have moved teams in the off-season, 26 female riders, 35 brand new names, 3 new teams, 3 of which have now moved along, and strong under 25 contenders. Along with me, as always, Frederick de Backer joining me in studio. Frederick, let's jump straight back in. Welcome. There is big transfer news. Where do we start today?
When the list came out, there's only one place where we can start this episode of the Insider. Stockholm Hearts. That's where we start. That's where the season starts. It might even be where the season will pivot around. There's a new team.
Tell me a little bit about this. Stockholm Hearts, powered by H&M, by the way. Big power, lots of riders, lots of stable horsepower. I mean, we are looking at potential championship contenders already, and we haven't jumped a single fence.
So it's a new team, and they've basically poached the best riders from the best teams in the 2021 championship. I mean, are you ready to go through the lineup?
Tell me who is in this, because if we are talking about championship contenders before Doha has even got underway, I would love to know who is in this team.
If you want to win a championship, who do you get on your team?
Mr. Peter Fredriksson has to be number one on that list.
Number
surely.
One on that list. Malin Bayer-Johnson, the 2 Philippaerts brothers, Lily Atwood and Lily Keenan. 6 riders on that team, new team. Stockholm Hearts, powered by H&M, with Peter Fredriksson, Malin Bayer-Johnson, the Philippaerts brothers, and the 2 Lilies, Lily Keenan and Lily Atwood.
So let's just remind ourselves of the composition of this, because we have Peter Fredriksson, who ultimately went on to go win the LGCT Grand Prix title at the Super Grand Prix, in the build-up to the season, I beg your pardon. You have the Philippaerts brothers, who performed so well for the London Knights throughout the year last season. You have Malin Bayer-Johnson, who was exceptional from an individual point of view towards the end of the year. Can all these wonderful dynamics work together in one super team, potentially, for the Stockholm Hearts?
That is always the question, but they know each other so well. I mean, the bond between Peter and Malin is super strong. The Philippaerts brothers know each other inside out, obviously, and the 4 of them are already an H&M team. So, out of the blue, we've got this brand new team that, on paper, is there to contest not for top 4, but for the championship. I think it's super exciting.
I love the fact that this early on we were already talking about potential championship contenders, despite having not jumped a fence, as we said. Well, in order to get a slightly better understanding as to how this team composition may well succeed throughout the 2022 season, let's welcome Olivia Philippaerts, a brand new member to the Stockholm Hearts. Olivia, welcome to The Insider.
Welcome, thank you.
So, Olivia, you have gone from one top team to another, and based on the composition of the Stockholm Hearts that we've unpacked, it looks as if you are in a title contending team already. Is it too early to say that about the Stockholm Hearts?
I mean, it's always early to say, but I've been lucky to be a part of a very good team the last couple of years, and now I think it was time for a change. I think now, to be a part of the new team, together with world number 1, it sounds very exciting for the upcoming season.
Okay, so that is basically dodging the bullet. Are you a title contending team or not?
Well, I mean, I think we have a very strong team, to be very honest. I think even last few years we had a great team, but even this year, I mean, if you see, Peter has been very, very successful for the Valkenswaard United, and then Malin was very great for Shanghai Swans. My brother and me were very good with the London Knights, and especially with Lily Keenan and Lily Atwood. I think we've got a very good team, to be honest.
Olivia, you've already mentioned some existing relationships there, and sometimes new teams take a little bit of time to find their rhythm. But the fact that you are very comfortable with your brother, the fact that Malin and Peter have a good relationship already, does that mean that we can expect the Stockholm Hearts to fire from the get-go, or do you think there'll be some time that you need to just get your rhythm going?
Well, the faster the better, I'd say. So for sure, we're going to go to Doha with full force. That's the idea, because on the end, even after so many shows, it always comes to a few points. So it's better to get off in a good start and try to get up and get our job done.
Olivier, you spoke about the two Lilies, Lily Keenan and Lily Atwood. Of course, we know Peter, we know Mali, we know you and your brother. What should people know about Lily Keenan and Lily Atwood?
Well, I mean, I see Lily Keenan has been a couple of years now also part of the global tour. She's a couple of good horses, successful on 5-star level. So I think it's great that she's a part of our team. Lily Atwood, I think under 25, she is one of the best ones we could find in Europe. I mean, she's been very successful in the European Championships and also other competitions all over Europe. So I think we really think it's one of the best under 25 riders we could find.
Olivier, you mentioned Doha just a few moments ago, and of course everyone is incredibly excited to get to the first GCL event of the year. Have you had some discussions with the team already as to what the makeup will look like for Doha?
Yeah, we've had a couple of discussions the last few weeks, and then I think eventually will be Peter, Marlon and me going to Doha, because I think that was the right plan. And then further on, we didn't have our full calendar fitted yet, but I'd say in an upcoming weeks, we will try to move our planning towards Mexico and Miami.
Well, Olivier, we are incredibly excited about the Stockholm Hearts powered by H&M. I have no doubt that you and your teammates are incredibly excited as well. It looks good on paper. Hopefully it will work well in the rings around the world. Thank you for your time and best of luck for the upcoming GCL season. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
Thank you.
Olivier Philipparts from the Stockholm Hearts. Interesting to see how they are going to feature throughout the year. Frederick, Paris Panthers, superb 2021. Championship contenders for a very large part of it. Great success towards the middle and back end of it. They've done some shopping and they've made a rather big acquisition, haven't they?
If you want to win the championship and you know that Peter Fredriksson is taken, who else do you want on your team?
Well, again, I don't want to call the obvious, but we spoke a bit about Ben Mayer, and now I'm finding out and believing that Ben is now a Paris Panther. They were already good last year, Frederick. What does Ben Mayer do now to increase, to further intensify a team that was already very stable, and as we'll talk about now, it hasn't lost a lot of talent? Where does that leave them now?
So it's Niall Nassar, it's Harry Smulders, it's Gregory Wathelet, it is Derek Kenny, and then you add Ben Mayer and Loli Mytilineeu as under 25 rider. Loli Mytilineeu, who was so strong at those Europeans with that fantastic Levis de Muse, plus Ben Mayer with Explosion, plus Ginger Blue, because don't forget those are also two LGCT Grand Prix winners. So you add enormous firepower. That it's probably one of the best managed teams on the circuit. They've had a game plan, they've had ideas, they've had communication. Were a little bit unlucky, if you remember, 2021. And I think now with this extra gear in Ben Mayer and Explosion and Loli Mytilineeu, that already from the start of the season, you'd think that they should be competitive. You know, Valkenswaard United won in Doha and then changed leads in the championship with Shanghai Swans and went on to win the championship. I think Paris Panthers were the strongest team in the second part of the championship, but missed out on the first part. And I think with this lineup, early in the season, they can already be in that group that can contend for the championship title.
I know our focus is on the GCL today, as it always is for the Insider, but there's no denying that there are 4 LGCT Grand Prix winners in this. We've spoken about Rob Hoekstra, and arguably one of the biggest strengths of this Paris Panthers team is their communication, is their rider management. It's a great headache to have, but how does Rob Hoekstra go about then selecting a team per event when he has so much talent? It's almost a luxurious headache to have. Is it going to simply be based on rider availability? Is there a game plan, do you feel? Do you rest and rotate? Because you have talent aplenty in this team.
I think Hoekstra has realized last year how important planning is, especially in the beginning of the season, that you can't catch up at the end of the season, not enough to win the championship. And with what he has now, he can really plan and select. He can give horses a rest. He can give riders a break. So he really has a 6-man strong team. You know, we've seen teams last year that have actually competed with only 5 or 4 riders, though they have 6 on the roster, but some of them never really featured. Now, this is a team with 6. They never come out on half strength in terms of riders, and that is the big strength of this team.
Speaking of the Paris Panthers, it's always far easier to hear from the individuals themselves instead of hearing from us two. We just ramble on. Rob Hoekstra joins us live on the show for the first of what I hope will be many appearances throughout the 2022 year. Rob Hoekstra, thank you for taking time and welcome to The Insider.
Thank you. Yeah, nice to be here. Nice to be back.
It's wonderful to have you back. Rob, you've done some very impressive shopping in the off-season, and we'll talk about the stars that make up the combinations that I have no doubt will perform very well for you. But overall, there's no denying that Ben Meyer will take a lot of those headlines. Is he the missing piece to the puzzle that can complete this Paris Panthers lineup?
Well, I mean, obviously Ben, Olympic champion, and Ben and I go back quite a long way. From our time at the British team and so on. So obviously, I'm super delighted that he's part of our team. Of course, it's going to strengthen our team. He's one of the top rider combination in the world at the moment with Explosion, and he's got several other very good horses. So we wanted to strengthen. We had a very good season last year, but obviously we're trying to improve each year. So
I think another key element here, Rob, surely needs to be the consistency, because yes, you've brought Ben Meyer in, but you've kept all your stars from 2021 as well. How is that dynamic going to work? Because I'm sure now you almost have a wonderful headache of selection choices here. How on earth are you, as the manager of this team, going to be able to work out who needs to jump where with so much talent available?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of shows, also with away from the GLC shows. There's the World Championship this year, and Aachen and several other shows that are very important for these other guys, and Nations Cups. So you need a very strong team. You need a very big team. I think there's plenty of opportunity and plenty of shows to pick the right teams for us. And I don't think you can have too many good riders.
Rob, when did Lowly appear on your radar? Was that before or after the Europeans?
Well, we've been watching Lowly a bit, and obviously the Europeans really put her in the frame and in the picture. And then we had some contact with her towards the end of last year. For Eve, it was going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, to certainly do the first half of the season because she's in the States. Her horse is a bit older now, although she performed really well for us last year. So we decided to go down that route, and obviously we were really excited about 2 or 3 horses that she has that could really contribute to the team, in different competitions.
No, Rob, I was going to say, Rob, rider management has been one of your strengths, and you proved that throughout 2021. I wonder what conversations you've had with Lowly, just what she can expect from the 2022 season with such a strong lineup. Have you had discussions with her as to how and where she may well feature for the team?
Well, I've just arrived in Wellington, and she's in Wellington here together with, Ben is here and Harry was here. Obviously, Niall is here. So we're having a number of discussions here. I arrived yesterday, so I mean that's going to happen over the next week or so. We would probably see her in Madrid, I would think, the first time, as it looks for the moment.
And Rob, if you take a look at the lineup, your riders look incredibly strong. I wonder if you can just give us an idea as to what horsepower those riders are bringing, because to have a wonderful lineup is fantastic. Do they all have multiple top-class horses that they'll be able to use throughout the year?
Yes, I mean, very much so. I mean, obviously, if you go through Harry's got the same horses as he had last year, with Monaco in particular being very strong towards the end of the year. And he's got Bingo, and he's got several other horses that could be part of that. Gregory's always very strong. He's got the same horses as last year. Dara has got a nice team of horses as it looks for the moment. Niall strengthened his team a little bit more. We've been able to acquire 1 or 2 extra horses. So I think, things are looking very good for us. Normally, that first show, Doha, is always quite difficult because I've got a number of riders here in the States. And we'll only have 2 riders in Doha. And that's always going to be quite difficult for us. Each year we've had 2 riders there because the commitment's in the States.
Rob, before we let you go, can you just give us a better indication as to who those 2 riders will be? Do you know? Have you had those conversations with the team just yet?
Yes, it'll be Gregory and Harry. Gregory Waterlet and Harry Smolders will be there. And they'll have to pull their finger out and make sure they really perform in Doha.
Well, we look forward to seeing how this team is going to perform throughout the rest of the 2022 season. Rob, you had a fantastic 2021, a bit of disappointment, of course, but no denying a fantastic season. It sounds like you've done some fantastic work in the off-season, so best of luck, not just for Doha, but for 2022, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
If the first two teams are anything to go by, we are up for quite a season, Frederick. Stockholm Hearts, Paris Panthers, two incredibly strong teams, but two teams that both seem to have gone shopping from the London Knights. Super Cup winners in Prague at the end of last year. Superb performance from a lot of the members we've spoken about already. That begs a very big question. What does that leave the London Knights looking like for the 2022 season now?
Basically, it doesn't look anything like it did in the past 3 or 4 years. We've spoken about the Philippines brothers moving to Stockholm Hearts, powered by H&M. Ben Meer has been transferred to Paris Panthers, and the rest of the team is no longer on the team. So basically, London Knights is a completely new team.
Okay, well, best of luck to them, of course. London Knights, as we said, proud Super Cup winners back in Prague at the end of last year. That brings us to Shanghai Swans, who, again, were so outstanding for such a large majority of the 2021 season. And although they may have lost Malin Bajdion, since we spoke about her going to Stockholm, the core of that side, I believe, in Christian Allman and Max Kuhne, that is still going to be there. Are they going to continue relying on these two gentlemen throughout the entire season like they did?
The team, as last year, mainly last year, pivoted around Max Kuhne and Christian Allman. That is still the case. They're still there alongside with Pia Schweitzer. They've added Alexander Thornton, who was also on the roster last year but didn't compete. I hope that she will add to the team with her good horses this year as well. And then there's Katrin Eckermann.
Tell us a little bit about her as well.
It's a really strong signing. She is a LGCT Hamburg Grand Prix winner. Katrin Eckermann back in the day. And there's Jean Sadran. Jean Sadran who comes from Monaco Aces as under 25 rider. So lots of female riders on that team as well, half-half. But especially Katrin Eckermann, that's a really strong signing with some very, very good horses as well.
There's no denying that Christian Allman and Max Kuhne will be the anchor for the team. But from what I'm hearing, though, with Katrin Eckermann, with Jean Sadran coming in, will there still be that over-reliance on the two men? Are they going to continuously still be driving that team forward, or does this give them a little bit of support to maybe catch a breather in between a couple of events?
I think it will still rely on, the team will still pivot around Max Kuhne and Christian Allman, but last year they lost points, valuable ranking points on the championship because they had to bring new horses, younger horses that were less experienced and didn't perform as strong as a Dominator or an Electric Blue P. Now, those horses have gained experience over the summer, over 2021, and this winter. So these horses are much more mature, they're ready. And I think if that was a weakness, those younger horses, that becomes a strength now, I think.
Well, instead of us then deciding whether or not the over-reliance is going to be on Christian Allman and Max Kuhne, let's hear from Max Kuhne himself, who joins us from the Shanghai Swans. Max, thank you for joining us and welcome to The Insider.
Hello to everybody.
Max, we're taking a look at the lineups and you guys have made some good purchasing. We'll unpack it in a moment. But let me ask you, do you feel from what you see on paper now that the Shanghai Swans are stronger than what they were in 2021?
I think we've been pretty strong last year. And I hope that we've been even stronger this year.
You were championship contenders right up until the very, very last day with Valkenswaard United. We've seen the London Knights lose quite a few talented riders. If that takes them out of the equation, do you feel that you are now even more in an even better position, an even stronger position to win the GCL overall title?
That's very early to say, but yeah. Altogether, I think we have some strong horse-rider combinations for this year. And yeah, let's hope that all the horses and riders stay sound and keep fit. And then I'm really looking forward to this year, to this season.
Do you think you have now more spread in the team with adding Jean Sadran and especially with Katrin Eckermann?
Okay, of course we will miss Malin. Malin and her horse were super strong, and for sure we will miss her. But with Katrin and Jean, we have two new younger members. I think the horses are very fresh, and especially Katrin, it's her first season in the GCL, but she has some good talents, and I think she's a very strong rider. So I think she will be very helpful for us this year.
Does that take some of the stress off your shoulders, Max? You and Christian carried a lot of weight of the team. Do you feel that there will be less over-reliance on the combination of Max Kuhne and Christian Allman?
We don't want less. We are used to carry these things.
Tell me about Stockholm Hearts, Max. They're a brand new team. They've got some fantastic riders. You mentioned Marlon, of course, your former teammate there. Have you been keeping an eye on them? And what do you make of the newest team in the GCL?
Yeah, for sure. They are a very strong team, and they will perform well this year. It's good that we have a new team and also some changes in between that makes the whole thing even more exciting. And 4, 5 very strong couples. For sure, they have a good chance to end up in the podium.
And instead of focusing on the entire year, Max, let's maybe bring the magnifying glass a little bit closer. Doha is just a couple of weeks away. Have there been team discussions? Have you already discussed the lineup for Doha coming up soon?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's all more or less ready for Doha. We have to get all the organization done. And for Doha, it will be Christian, Jean, and myself. And Christian will bring Dominator, and I will bring Electric Blue. So we try to start strong this year.
That is a very strong lineup to start the first GCL event of the year in Doha a few weeks away. Max, thank you for your time. Best of luck to you, of course, to Christian Allman, to the rest of your team, and of course to Jean Sadran, who will be then in the starting lineup for Doha. Thank you for your time and best of luck. We look forward to chatting to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great to hear from Max Kuhne. He had a superb 2021 season for the Shanghai Swans. Can he once again deliver the goods in 2022? Well, time will tell as we edge on closer to Doha. Volkswagen United, the champions of 2021, an historic year for them, a superb year for them. We spoke about Peter Fredriksson no longer being in that famous blue kit. We'll talk about who is there, but Fredrik, tell me, how do you go about filling a gap left by a rider the size of Peter Fredriksson? How does the team, the management, the riders themselves, how do you try and close a gap, a hole that has been left by a man like Peter Fredriksson?
Maybe you go and try to get Ben Meer, but he went to Paris Panthers, so you have to find a different solution. And the solution that Volkswagen United have found is fairly interesting. In comes Laura Kraut from Monaco Aces and John Whittaker. Now, John Whittaker has been a member of Volkswagen United in the past. He wasn't last year, but he has been on that roster. Laura Kraut was a rival of Volkswagen United in Valkenswaard at the Tops International Arena just the other year. And then there's Gilles Thomas with Maurice Stebel. Maurice Stebel, who comes to ride for Stal Tops and replaces Alberto Zorzi. So there's quite a lot of changes going on in that team. Now, to answer your question, how do you replace Peter Fredriksson? Or you do it with one superb rider with 4 Grand Prix horses, and they are tough to find. And Ben Meer is taken in Paris Panthers. Or you make sure that your spread is big enough that you're not depending on just that one rider, and that a John Whittaker and a Laura Kraut, who have got those capacities, both riding-wise and horse-wise, to fill that gap. You do have to say that there's less certainty in the producing of goods with these riders than with Peter Fredriksson. That's how it is. That's also why they are ranked, and why Peter Fredriksson is a champion of the series. But it's a good way to spread your risk, because if Peter Fredriksson, for whatever reason, would get injured as a rider, you also lose your star striker. Here, United seem to have spread the risk a little bit more, and it seems that they rely on more riders to be consistent.
On paper, though, it's still a really good side, because we spoke about the wonderful John Whittaker effect that happened towards the end of last year after he qualified for the Super Grand Prix. Edwina Tops-Alexander undoubtedly will go on to wear that crown and be the anchor for the team. But you still have Marcus Enning alongside you. Yes, he's retired a few horses, but when you combine him with Laura Kraut, is this still a team that can look to get into a Super Cup semi-final at the end of the year? Can they still be serious contenders?
It's not as clear as it was last year with Peter on the team. it's different. The battle will be much tougher. Now, on the good note, for example, Edwina Tops-Alexander, some of the horses are coming back from her that we haven't seen in 2021. I saw her in Oliva with a horse called Katenda. Bacardi is back jumping, so she was very much reliant on fellow Castlefield, and there's a bigger spread just for her coming up for the 2022 season. So in that way, they are at least top 4 contenders. And then it'll have to be, it'll be the form and a little bit of luck, the form of the weekend and a little bit of luck that'll take him step by step further and further, maybe towards a new crown, but at least to a top 4 contention.
So we've spoken about Stockholm, we've spoken about Paris and Swans, Valkenswaard United now. There are still a handful of teams that have some new faces in that we want to meet, but they will still be looking to try and remain as competitive as possible. Berlin Eagles, we know they just missed out heartbreakingly towards the end of last season in that top 4. They have some new inclusions as well, although still a lot of consistency in that Berlin Eagles side. What have they been able to do in the off-season? What does Berlin look like?
Stronger, to my feeling. Much stronger.
And they were already very good in 2021, so that's a good sign for them.
They've added Owen McMahon to the team and Philipp Schulze-Tophoff. Now, Schulze-Tophoff just came into the spotlight at the end of 2021, winner of a World Cup, a young German talent with 2-3 very good horses. Owen McMahon as a part of Ludger Beerbaum's setup in Riesenbeck. So that's 4 riders from Riesenbeck, Jane Richard Phillips and Philipp Schulze-Tophoff. For example, Berlin Eagles were a team in 2021 that only used 5 riders in the GCL, though they had 6 on the roster. The 6th rider didn't have the experience to feature entirely and to be competitive at the moment that it mattered. And they never had that space to give him the chance to ride a comfortable round. They were always battling for top 4. It was never completely out of top 4. Yeah. It was always on the balance, on the fence. Now they've got 6 riders that can contribute or can participate in that ambition to become a top 4 team. And that, I think, is the biggest strength and the biggest improvement for Berlin Eagles, going from 5 to 6.
And that depth, that flexibility will, again, help a already very good Berlin Eagles side. If we talk about consistency in Berlin, I imagine that consistency and keeping the majority of the talent is probably the same storyline for Saint-Tropez Pirates as well, because they too have a very similar look and feel to what we saw last season in 2021.
So you have to keep in mind that with Stockholm Hearts powered by H&M, Valkenswaard United, Paris Panthers, Shanghai Swans, those are 4 teams that you think that's a top 4. And now we're discussing Berlin Eagles. And then, so that group of teams that can battle for top 4, in my opinion, and it can take it all the way through, is growing. There's a bigger pack of teams that can battle for top 4, and there's not one team that really stands out for the championship because they all have their strengths. And I think Saint-Tropez Pirates, second in 2019, a poor season in 2021. Now come into 2022 with a stronger team. They have added Adam Morgan as under-25 rider, a young Irish rider with some fine talent, and a very competitive Jérôme Guéry. And maybe it's that competitiveness, that edge that they lacked a little bit in 2021.
Okay, and speaking of Saint-Tropez Pirates, one man moving in the opposite direction, Peter de Vos now going to Prague Lions, who too were trying to get into the hunt. They had that terrible podium-less streak that they had in 2021 by adding talent, experience like Peter de Vos. Does that make Prague Lions an even better unit?
So de Vos goes from Saint-Tropez Pirates to Prague Lions. There's also Brian Mowgry who comes into that mix. De Vos, who was an anchorman for Saint-Tropez Pirates in 2019. 2021 was absolutely not the season of Peter de Vos. Question now is, does he bounce back and does he prove his value in a new team, a new strong team with Kelnerova, with Moya, with Bruinseels, and with that very exciting under-25 rider Brian Mowgry with Balou de Reventon, a stallion, a horse that we know really, really well, of course, with Derek Kenny, and that is just that's one superstar added to the team. Now, has he got more than Balou de Reventon? He'll have to prove that on the league and on the tour throughout the season. But there are two very strong addings. Just de Vos, he has to prove his his form of 2019.
What I really like that I'm hearing now as well is that there seems to be a recurring theme of very strong under-25 riders. And we love the idea of having exciting young talent here on the GCL. And to help us speak about more of the under-25 talent, Sam Watson joins us on the line now to speak to us about the young talent. He's been crunching the numbers. Sam Watson, welcome to The Insider.
Thanks, Mark. It's there's a lot of them, isn't there? There's a huge amount of talent this year.
There certainly is. And we've been talking about some of these under-25 riders already, and I'm very excited to hear what the numbers are saying about them, because there are some individuals that I have no doubt that you will identify. Let's start maybe briefly and widely and bring the net in as we continue. What has your number crunching told you? What is the overall thoughts as to what you found out ahead of this season?
Yeah, well, the under-25s, Mark, it's not just about uncovering some rough diamonds. We're actually talking about bringing in some real superstars this year. There's 3 of them in particular that stand out. And for me, there is one hugely world-class combination in Brian Maugré with Balou de Reventon. This horse is used to GC. He was second in that Super 15 final back in Prague in 2019 with Dara Kenny. But Brian has taken him over. They've been signed up by Prague Lions. I think it's a huge signing. I think this is a superstar. We didn't see them in the GC leagues or the GCT last year, but they were second at Aachen in the Nations Cup. They've had so many big finishes, and they'll really hold their own, I think, in this division.
I have no doubt that spotlight will fall firmly on Brian, but as you mentioned, there are multiple as well. So how exciting to not just have 1 or 2, but a handful of exciting talents in the under-25 category. Who else then, alongside Brian, will really be competitive and will get the crowd excited?
Well, Brian brings this one superstar horse, I think, as a real standout. What Harry Charles has done for New York Empire is he has bought a whole host of horsepower. Harry Charles, he was at the Olympics last year. He had 2 5-star wins at the top level at 160 at the end of the season in London. He's had plenty of press from that point of view. He's got more horses coming into his string as well. But in Romeo 88, in Borsato, in Stardust, with this new horse, Casque Bleu, big signing. And he's raving about other horses in his string like Ireland Blue as well. He has got so much firepower. He's going to be a really fun rider to watch throughout the GCL, because I think he's going to use it to showcase all this different talent as well. And there's his own talent as well. But what a signing for New York Empire. You know, you add that to Scott Brash, Dennis Lynch, Spencer Smith. They've got some serious firepower this year.
Speaking of firepower from an individual point of view, I know that Sana Tayson has signed up to be a part of the GCL 2022 season with the Istanbul Sultans, and I have no doubt that she will find herself onto your list as well. And we all remember very fondly as to what she did in Valkenswaard last year. That talent with the ability that she has, what does she bring? What do the numbers tell us about a very exciting Sana Tayson?
Her biggest numbers are all around speed, Mark. I mean, we talk about the Flying Dutchman. This is the Flying Dutch woman. She is really, really speedy with Conquidam. That can be really valuable in GCL in that round 2 when those teams are tied. It's almost like a jump off. It's a full course, but it can ride like a jump off. She has jumped some of the biggest courses in the sport. And in Geneva in particular, at the end of last year, she absolutely hammered the field by about 4 seconds in a big 155 speed class. Big, GCT in Valkenswaard as well. And what's interesting about Sana is that at her age, for an under-25 rider coming in, she on ratings is the star of the Istanbul Sultans. And I think that's a really interesting position to be in for a younger rider. I would expect to see a lot of her, and I would expect that team will need to see and use her quite a lot and have her performing at that top level. Big role for her this year.
So often the under-25 riders are fighting for some airtime, and here you're telling us that the numbers suggest she may well be the star for the Istanbul Sultans. There is youth and exuberance and excitement and eagerness and loads of talent as well. Brian Maugré, Harry Charles and Sana Tayson, just 3 of the fascinatingly exciting youngsters we can look forward to in the under-25 category this season. Sam Watson, thank you for your time and thank you for joining us here on The Insider.
No problem, Mark. Thank you.
Sounds like there is a lot of very exciting young talent. We heard about Harry Charles. This is a name that the season hasn't even begun yet, Frederick, and already I'm starting to hear this quite a lot. One of the new New York Empire men, Harry Charles, a name to look out for, a name to remember, to focus on for 2022?
I think nobody could go around Harry Charles as an under-25 rider. The way he closed let's say 2021. Olympic contender, and then at home in London at Olympia, not Olympia, but at the London World Cup show, what he showed there with different horses, with several horses. If you were looking for a super addition as an under 25 rider, there was Harry Charles, best under 25 rider in the world. You know, in this lineup of the 2022 season, 7 of the top 10 of the under 25 riders in the world are in these GCL teams. That just shows how they get in there on merit. If and when they perform, they get selected and they go through into these teams and get a shot at competing at that big 5-star level.
So Jody Hall-McAteer also comes in here. We talk about more injection of youth and exuberance and excitement. Can New York Empire really benefit from this injection of young, exciting talent? She was fantastic in parts in 2021.
You say it right, in parts, and I think well surrounded. I think she can really do well in 2022 with that lineup of Georgina Bloomberg, of Spencer Smith, of Dennis Lynch and Scott Brash. I think that's a really comfortable team to be in and for her to develop. She's not where Harry Charles is. Harry Charles is an Olympic rider and is a World Cup and Grand Prix winner. For her, it's still a different situation, but I think this team suits her better than where she was in Cascais Charms to develop comfortably and grow and be well surrounded and well supported and become maybe the star rider that is in her. She'll have to prove it. It's up to her to leave the jumps up with her horses. But I think she's in a very good team now to develop.
You make a good point. Her natural talent with the right people around her might really see her flourish. So Jody Hall-McAteer, Harry Charles, just 2 of the young, exciting names to feature for New York Empire in the upcoming 2022 season. Brand new team, new name. The Istanbul Sultans come into the 2022 season. So welcome to the Istanbul Sultans. Some exciting talent there as well. Before we unpack the names of it, let's just talk about the brand new team, new lineup as well. What do we expect from the Istanbul Sultans?
Difficult to say, in my opinion. Gerrit Nieberg is on that team, has got 2 very good horses. Ander de Miranda has got 1 or 2 very good horses. Then there's Derin Demirsoy, Omer Karevli, FSCI. Those are Turkish riders, which makes it extra exciting. We haven't had Turkish riders in a team on the league before, so they add. And then there is Sanne Thijssen. The question will be, how quickly does that team come together to produce? Now, those 3 Turkish riders know each other very well, and they live in the Netherlands. Sanne Thijssen doesn't live far away, so there's already a strong connection between the 4 of them. And I think that should be the jumpstart for that team to not to struggle with the habits that you see or with the problems that you see new teams struggle with. You know, the lack of coherence, the lack of communication. That should be already there at the start.
And in case you need any reminding, Sanne Thijssen, if you go back into the GCTV records and go take a look and see what she did at the LGCT Grand Prix in Valkenswaard last year, only being beaten to the punch by Daniel Deusser, who ran a ridiculous Grand Prix as well. Sanne Thijssen, a real talent. And because of that, we invited her onto the show as well. Sanne Thijssen, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to The Insider. This is very exciting times for you and your new team.
Yeah, really exciting. I think it's going to be a busy year.
Sanne, tell me, this is the first time you've been back in the GCL since, I think, 2017, 2018. There's been a few years in between there. What does it mean for you, still as a young rider, an exciting talent, to make it back onto the GCL stage?
Yeah, it's an unbelievable opportunity, of course. I think I have a little bit more horses now to jump this level than a few years ago. So I'm actually really excited, to have this chance again.
Sanne, I don't need to remind you what happened in Valkenswaard last year, because I'm pretty sure that memory is very high in your heart and in your mind. The crowd urging you on in that LGCT jump-off. Talk to me about what that performance did for you in your career. Do you think that was the springboard to the world to remind them as to what talent you have available?
Yeah, I think for the GCL was really important, exactly, because to show your face and everything, and if everyone will remind you because you won something. Of course, they don't remind you when you have 2 down or something. So I think that also gave me a bit a spotlight on me for the GCL.
Sanne, was it after that Grand Prix that teams started informing about the availability of yourself, of Sanne Thijssen, to come onto a team as an under-25 rider with multiple horses and a super 5-star Grand Prix result? Is it then that they started contacting you?
Yeah, a bit. I must say, other years they also contact me a bit, but my best horse was out then at that moment. So yeah, for me it was hard to do the globals because you need a couple of horses. You don't have enough with the one, huh? So yeah, after that it started a bit, yeah, and then now it was like, now it's the chance, and now it's the time to take the chance.
Sanne, when did the recruitment process begin? I mean, how long have you been talking to the team for? When did they first reach out to you?
Actually, 2 teams did. One didn't really work out. And then actually the team I'm in now, it was like, I think 3 weeks ago, like just last minute actually. So for me it was still a bit a surprise.
Should we press her on which team? Does that make for some healthy competition? I think that you and your team that you have chosen, Sanne, will be very, very happy to have you on board. Remind us, we will not be seeing you in Doha, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us when we first will be able to see you on a GCL stage.
Miami, Mexico. That will be the first one, yeah.
Miami and Mexico, right. Well, you and your team, we look forward to seeing you in Miami and Mexico. And of course, looking forward to seeing your team return then and make their debut in the GCL this coming next few weeks, in fact, in Doha for the first event of the year. Sanne Thijssen, thank you for your time. Best of luck for the 2022 GCL season. And we can't wait to see many successes come your way.
Yeah, thank you very much, and you're welcome.
So from one of the new teams in the Istanbul Sultans to the return of the Rome Gladiators. We didn't see them in 2021. Welcome back to the GCL Rome Gladiators. Who will lead the line for Rome this year, Frederick?
So we come from New York Empire, and it's Shane Breen who moves from New York Empire to Rome Gladiators with interesting riders. Edouard Levy from France. We saw him a few times at the French legs, but always as an individual. Now comes into the team with a few good horses. Young Mexican rider, Fernando Sommer. Very talented French rider, Nina Malvin, who rides for the stable of Eric Lamaze. Then 2 young Belgian talents, Peter Clemens and Zoe Conter, who is having a great run in Wellington this winter. So it's not a superstar team, but they all... You can say, oh yeah, I understand.
All have something to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And they're being led by Shane Breen, who was, of course, on New York Empire, who is a Longines Global Champions 2 Grand Prix winner, and a team with a little bit of history. Twice 4th on the league in the previous years, not in 2021, of course. But I really look forward to see riders like Edouard Levy, Nina Malvin, Zoe Conter, Peter Clemens, Fernando Sommer. I don't know him so well. But these other riders, supported by Shane Breen, could just be an exciting mix.
Okay, so welcome back to the GCL. Rome Gladiators have been in the top 4 before. As Frederick pointed out, maybe 2022 might be a magical comeback for them. We've spoken about some teams that have done some reverse business. CanStars didn't have a great 2021, and they've done some business with the Miami Celtics. There are some riders, or one rider at least, that swapped and gone the other way.
John Pals went from Miami Celtics to CanStars, where he finds Samael Dahan, where he finds Keane O'Connor, and where he finds Max Watchman, joined with Jens Bachmann and American rider Isabel Rusakov.
Okay, so again, CanStars looking to try and boost their team. Johnny Pals coming into the mix there.
Absolutely. So Pals goes from Miami Celtics to CanStars, and who returns to Miami Celtics? Jessica Springsteen and Michael Duffy. Now, Springsteen comes from Scandinavian Vikings. Duffy is new in, but he's not new. Springsteen and Duffy were already on Miami Celtics in 2019 when the team finished 4th in the league. 2018, that team finished 3rd. So that's another valuable team that comes back to strength, to full force. And we call it Miami Celtics, but there's a strong Irish influence with 4 Irish riders now on their roster. Michael Duffy, Michael G. Duffy.
Two different people, two different riders, same team. We need to remember this.
Can you make it any more difficult for the commentator? Michael Duffy, Michael G. Duffy, Bertram Allen, and Anthony Connon, who is a new face, a new name in GCL, but also Bertram Allen from Valkenswaard United, now into Miami Celtics.
So a heroic return for Jessica Springsteen and Michael Duffy. Michael G. Duffy coming into the mix. But then this Richard Vogel, earlier in the show, we spoke about really talented under-25 riders. Remind me of his ranking in this age group, because Richard Vogel seems to be an exceptionally good young talent for this team.
Super competitive rider. So when it comes down to time and when it's really important, he's somebody who will really step up. He's number 4 in the world in the under-25 rankings, proving his value, again proving that you make it into the teams on merit. A former Ludger Beerbaum rider, and Beerbaum was a big fan of him at the time, and I think now even more, Richard Vogel has got the chance to come onto the big stage.
Madrid in motion. We know the Van der Vleutens, of course, were such a strong anchor. Eric seemingly forming more of the managerial role. Michael, of course, still there. Who else is in Madrid in motion? Again, they were great in parts too. If we use that term for Jody Hall-McAteer, Madrid in motion were good in parts as well. What does their 2022 lineup look like?
I think it's the biggest change to Madrid in motion in years. It's been a team that has been very consistent in its lineup, but now there's no Michael G. Duffy and there's no Marlon Zanotelli. However, his wife joins us, Angelica Augustin Zanotelli. Remember her from our podcast and, of course, from the GC playoffs in Prague, where she was a great co-commentator. So for us, it's a loss because we're out of co-commentators. And Jack Whittaker returns. Now, I don't know if you remember the story.
It's a surname that I quite recall here, so it seems to be doing the rounds, yep.
So Jack Whittaker was one of the most exciting signings for the 2020 season, which started in Doha. And I remember him, he qualified for the Grand Prix, jumped the Grand Prix, and one fence, a wall, in Doha, at Al Shakab, he jumped it on the wrong side of the flag and got eliminated. Now, we all know how the 2020 season went and how it went down the drain. But Jack Whittaker, with some very exciting horses, Valmy Lalande, that he got the ride from his father, is one of them. So Whittaker is again an under-25 rider who comes into those teams because throughout the 2021 season, he has proven that he's got the magic, he's got the extra stuff that other younger riders don't have. He has got that riding ability and horses.
2 teams remain for the 2022 calendar season. Scandinavian Vikings. We spoke extensively to Geert Geriksen last year in Prague in particular, where he spoke so fondly of his team. He was so proud of them and so confident of them. It didn't work out for them in Prague. What does a change look for them? What does Scandinavian Vikings shape up for 2022? Can they change some of that talent into actual results this year?
3 teams are no longer on the roster of GCL 2022, and Doha Falcons is one of them. Doha Falcons, the little success that they had in 2021 was partly because of performances of Yuri Mansour. And Yuri Mansour is added to Geert Gulliksen, to Evelina Tovek, and to Hendrik van Eckerman. Jordi van Massenhoven, young Belgian rider who we saw in Rome and qualified for the Grand Prix in Rome on his very first outing in a global tour event, so that was very strong. He joins, as well as Ingrid Gjelstum, young Scandinavian rider, Norwegian rider, who now joins Scandinavian Vikings. Let's say that the last 2 aren't as strong as the first 4 riders that we've mentioned. So it'll be up to Geert Gulliksen to make sure that he shapes it well, that he makes sure that those 2 new riders like Jordi van Massenhoven and Ingrid Gjelstum, that they get the chance to get first exposure at these events outside the team, and then gently bring him into the team when it really fits, so that when they really need him at the end of the season, when it comes down to those valuable placings and points, that those riders are ready.
That leaves us with Hamburg Giants, and I find this a rather interesting pick, and it's a reason why we've left it deliberately to be the last team, because much like Valkenswaard United, who we spoke about being greater than the sum of its parts, Hamburg Giants come across as somewhat of a dark horse because they might not have a standalone superstar, but if you break the team down for us for 2022, arguably there's a lot of real talent in that team, and I wonder if that talent can start to threaten the Stockholms and the Parises and the Shanghais and the Valkenswaard that we mentioned earlier today.
So basically it's Suus Kuijten, Sarah Vingrakova, Linda Heet, so 3 ladies on the team. Linda Heet, a Swedish rider. And then it is Simon de Lester, Jur Vliering, and Bart Bles. Now, when you talk about competitiveness, those 3 men are strong. Also, Linda Heet is a very strong Swedish rider. Suus Kuijten has had a lot of exposure on the team last year. But I don't, and I have to be careful, and don't take me on my word at the end of the season, but I don't expect Hamburg Giants to be as low end of 2022 where they were end of 2021. They have got, and if they're not consistent throughout the entire season, surely they will have the highs and lows with podium finishes and maybe even wins, and then maybe also some low results. But that's a team that drastically improved and should be a midfield team, maybe even to contend. I'm not going to say top 4, but steal away points from those top 4 teams.
What I like a lot is that Hamburg Giants are just one of many teams that we've spoken about today that have improved their lineup. So as we wrap up the Welcome to 2022 show here on The Insider, Frederick, I'll just get your closing thoughts. These teams seem to have done very good shopping for the majority across the board. It speaks about a level being even better, even higher for the 2022 season. Your thoughts, your expectations, what have you made of who has moved, who looks really good, who will really stand out?
We've got 3 new teams, and Stockholm Hearts, powered by H&M, is a team that really stands out for me. Every year you ask me this question, and every year I say, yes, New York Empire, powered by Lugano Diamonds, is a team that finally should go for top 4. But and I think that's the main story. I think now we've got 8, 9, maybe even 10 teams that are top 4 contenders,
and not all 10 battles so exciting.
And not all 10 are proper championship contenders, but they have got it's more balanced. There's more of a level playing field. And yes, of course, you can say that Paris Panthers or Stockholm Hearts stand out, but still, for a top 4 finish, I think we've got 10 teams.
If it wasn't already close enough, at least in a 2-horse race going down to the wire in 2021. I like what you're saying to suggest that this may well be one of the most competitive seasons we've seen in the GCL for a very, very long time. Thank you for your time as always. We look forward to getting the new year and the season underway. Those are your teams for the 2022 GCL. And of course, good news is coming up in the next few weeks. We will reveal to you the official confirmed calendar for 2022, and you will have all of your cities, all of your venues locked down in front of you. But until then, don't forget, we will see you in the beginning of March at the first event of 2022. We'll see you in Doha.
The Pearl of the Middle East, where modern meets ancient traditions.